You've got heroes and icons, idols, role models, or you wish to emulate. Bigger than life champions, luminary figures, we all wish to imitate. You are a grown-up now. You are your own person. You were created with the image and likeness of your almighty Father. Why do you wish to be a mother? Take off the mask, take off the mask, take off the mask, and leave that. See your face. Take off the mask, take off the mask, take off the mask. Please see your face. No need to put on ears and accents and adopt foreign styles in order to be recognized. Don't you feel so bad because I've protected your real features? Some traits you just can't disguise. You are so beautiful, you only don't know it. I'm not trying to tell you how to get along. I am simply singing a song. Take off the mask, take off the mask, take off the mask. Let me see your face. Take off the mask, take off the mask, take off the mask. Let me see your face.
Yes, and so the Cadence-Lypso journey continues. Push Pass Nation, come on in, check in, post a comment, let us know where you're joining us from. I am Simone Matthew, and today it is all about the history and the evolution of our Cadence-Lypso music. We are joined by two legends in the business, Mr. Gordon Henderson and Miss Ophelia Marie Olivache Ophelia. And of course, we are also joined by Mr. Ibrahim Simon Brohim. And he's a legend in his own right for wanting to preserve our music. So come on in, check in, share the live, let everyone know that we are here for yet another program to celebrate and promote who we are as Dominicans. And before we get started, let me just quickly say, well, first of all, let me thank the panel for being here, and also thank our sponsors, TDN Radio, as well as Badui Financial Services. And as we get started, I just want you to keep in mind that this is the second half of a conversation that Gordon Henderson and I started back in 2020, where he told us all about, his experience growing up in Dominica, his experience. Did you know Gordon wanted to be a Catholic brother at one time? So his experiences growing up, his experiences, in Calypso, in boxing, how he moved over to Guadeloupe, how Cadence began in Guadeloupe, Cadence began on a stage instantaneously, spontaneously, and so much more. So again, I've gone ahead and pinned in the comment section the first part of this conversation that we started. So here today, we are here for the second part of the conversation, and we will talk about the evolution of the music, what bands came after Exile One, and how the music just permeated throughout the world. So let's go ahead and bring in our guests as we get started. To start the conversation, they can unmute their mics and say good evening, good afternoon to the folks joining us.
Okay, seeing that I'm the youngest, let me say good afternoon and good evening to everyone listening. Let me say thank you to Simone for allowing me the opportunity to be among those two prestigious persons who I have followed, for some 40 years, probably 50 years, in the music. They have really blessed my heart with enjoying lovely music, and it gave me the opportunity which I fell in love with. And, I've been a lover of Cadence music ever since.
Yes, absolutely. Gordon?
How about ladies first?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Ophelia?
Who said chivalry was dead?
It's certainly not. Ophelia, you're muted.
Ophelia needs to unmute her mic.
Let's see if I can unmute it from my end. Yes, you're unmuted now. Go ahead.
Thanks. Well, chivalry is definitely not dead with God. No, when you said that you were the youngest, I was next, but when you jumped on Gordon, I had to go back because Gordon is my big. And my name is Olivache Marie, and my husband would say I should have been second. Yeah, but everybody needs to be Ophelia, and they say, and I've been saying that for 40 years. Gordon is the one who gave to me, get up, let's go, and I followed. That is why the big brother. My friend brought him. I'm happy as well because you continue to do good things. You always listen to a kind of story that she speaks. There are 5 people who are one of them. I want to thank you. And Mathieu, I want to thank you much for having me, illustrious company, so patient with me for me to move on this by myself.
Yes, absolutely. And Gordon?
Well, thank you very much. And I know on behalf of Ibrahim and Ophelia, we really have to thank you for the good job that you've been doing. I thought you just started like 6 months ago. I was amazed that years have passed. I always feel a little embarrassed when Ophelia repeatedly kind of thanks me for the way that we started her adventure. But I need to thank her too because Ophelia is one of the rare Dominican artists who, and probably it's because she was young and afraid of Exile One, she more or less obeyed everything. And she can tell you that nowadays, when we offer to assist some of the younger artists, they will just turn that down and say, well, that is old school. That's not for us.
Unfortunately.
I need to apologize to Ibrahim because the first time I met him, I knew that he was a Cadence-Lypso fan and everything. And somebody took him to my home. I lived in New Jersey at the time. And I had a favorite restaurant that wasn't far away where the people used to flood me with drinks and whatever. And I remember coming back meeting Ibrahim and I was ashamed. I had too much to drink. I was sick and everything. So I want to publicly apologize. And someday, not in a virtual way, I would have to make up for that.
Okay, and you've said it publicly.
Yes.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. And we will meet one day to have a drink. Don't worry.
Yes. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for being here with us as we kick off this important conversation on the evolution of Cadence-Lypso music. And we see that we have quite a few people already on the line. So let's say good afternoon to Carol Olivache Bruni. Glenda Shillingford is here with us. We also have Joseph Hyacinth, Howard Augustine, Katharina Janice Layton is here. My mom, Medina Senhouse, Rosalind Severa. Quite a few people are joining us this evening. Janice Carbon is here. Rita Thomas. So come on in. Don't forget to share the live as we get started for this very energetic and informative discussion this afternoon. And while we're at it, let me also thank the promoters and the DJs who've done an incredible job over the years in terms of promoting the music. And immediately Mr. Leroy Waddix Charles comes to mind. He was invited to be on this panel, but he's unfortunately not available today. And then the other person who comes to mind as well is DJ Easy. And if anyone knows DJ Easy, I would love to get in touch with him because he does an awesome job of making compilations and playlists that he puts on YouTube.
Let me interrupt you to just a second. I am told that he is Chubby's son.
I thought so too. I thought that's what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if someone can get in touch with him because I would love to have him on a program. So if you guys have Chubby's number, maybe you can reach out to him for us.
Yeah, I have Chubby's number, so I'll try and do that for you.
Yes, please do. I think he would be a great addition to this conversation. And we also have to remember to thank Mr. Tilly Thomas because he was the one who pointed out that Signman would have a lot of information about Cadence music. So I want to thank Tilly for, throwing Signman out there and saying, hey, bring him on the program.
Let me say something very early, Simone, and I'm going to bring Gordon back a number of years, I'm not an expert on Cadence-Lypso or music. I'm a collector, I'm a lover. I know quite a little bit, I followed. And I remembered years ago, I don't know if God remembers that. In Dominica, he was invited to a radio station. I think it was in Point Michel. And I was invited because they had a program on Cadence-Lypso. And they knew that I loved the music and I collected and I bought. So they asked me to come along, to be on the show with Mr. Gordon. And I said, wow. I said, I can't say no. So then when Gordon walks in and they told him, he said, you mean, so you're the expert on Cadence-Lypso? I said, no. I said, Miss Henderson, no, I'm not an expert, please. I just love the music. I follow it. I collect it. And I can speak about it. So I don't know if you remember when you were on that station,
I can't remember that, but what I do remember is every time that I cannot get hold of a Cadence-Lypso record, including mine, you're the one that I call.
That is true.
Wow, that's incredible.
Up to when was it? A couple months ago, you wanted that one for the Sultan Orchestra, Albernado.
Albernado, because we are in a period, we can talk about it because we are in a period when vinyl is coming back on the market. As a matter of fact, it is the highest selling format. Of course, nobody buys cassettes anymore. CDs have dropped and so on, and people went back to vinyl. And so people like Soul Tone with a back catalog, they want to have this re-release. For example, I hope that we'll be able to do Ophelia's first record because it happens to be my favorite. I might have a little bias, but
which one is that?
Ophelia's very first Soul Tone recording with Dominica and these things. I know that there have been many versions of the song.
Was it a 45?
No. Her first album with Soul Tone.
A full album, okay.
Yeah. The Dominic.
I think I will.
So guys, so we have quite a bit to talk about. So I'm happy to hear that vinyl is coming back into circulation. But before we do, let's do a couple of introductions because we have quite an audience and some of them may not necessarily know our guests because they're not from Dominica. So as I mentioned earlier, I went ahead and pinned in the comment section the first interview we did with Gordon Henderson. So that is in essence the complete bio of Gordon Henderson, everything you ever wanted to wanted to know and more. And then I'm going to share a little bit of information about Ophelia, and then Brohim, if you don't mind telling us who you are. So let's just share some information about Ophelia, and then we'll come over to you, Simon. So Ophelia burst onto the Creole music scene in 1978 with her seminal hit I, Dominic, which was recorded in Paris in January of that year. The song was an immediate hit on the radio in Guadeloupe, Martinique, and French Guyana. However, at the time leading up to Dominica's independence from Great Britain in November of that same year, the lone government-owned radio station refused to play the song. It was supposedly not sufficiently patriotic, even if the song had been the winning composition in the National Patois Song in 1975. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit. In the Caribbean in 1978, music was strictly a male affair. Dominica and the French West Indies were no different. In fact, some record distributors in the French West Indies initially refused to carry Ophelia's record because they feared that the public would not buy records by a woman singer. However, Ophelia's reception by the public was nothing short of ecstatic. You could say that she was the prophet long awaited by the suffering population, particularly the females. The record eventually sold more than 100,000 copies and is still a best-seller. Okay, I think I lost my place, so give me 1 minute. Let me reopen the document and get to where I was. It's still selling in CD format. In fact, the vinyl release of that album has become a collector's item and can be bought in discogs.com. And let's see what else we want to share about Ophelia. Some non-musical factors allowed Ophelia to build up a celebrity profile in French West Indies and French Guyana, as well as in France. In the first place, Ophelia had a university degree in French and could speak, read, and write French at a highly sophisticated level. She had also been a teacher of French in Dominica Grammar School. Of course, she could also speak Creole fluently. Up until recently, Creole was not allowed on the radio or television, and many Dominican performers who were deficient in French were not interviewed on the radio or television. So just a little bit about Miss Ophelia, as I've been told to call her. So Ophelia, anything else you want to add to your introduction?
I could say that 18, never did and I have to say, on stage, person, I feel I'm in charge. Always that gives me shoulder curve and able to pass through the team practices to read back to me. And
yeah, and just one thing, Ophelia, I noticed that your mic is going in and out. So if anyone is there with you, can they probably see if there's a headset that you can probably use, because we can hear you, but it's fading in and out. So let's see if we can get maybe a headset to see if that helps. So over to you, Simon, a little bit of who you are, your background, and your love for the Cadence music.
Okay, well, let me say, I grew up in Dominica. I was not born here. I was born in the country of Lebanon in the Middle East. Came down at a very tender age with my parents, and all my schooling was here in Dominica. As like anybody else, you know, as a young person, you work different places, get experience. And eventually some 21, 22 years ago, I took the bold step to start off my business, something I saw the need for, because I used to work with a company that did the same stuff, and I found it very lacking. So I took the initiative. It was a very tough start in the beginning, but you know, people tell you that it's nice working for yourself, but at the end of the day, sometimes it can be very tough. And so I developed myself, my business called the Sign Man Limited, where we do majority of signs, we do signage, we do plaques, banners, whatever we feel that customers need, we try to do it for them. And through my business, I've given support to many sectors in Dominica, from both the education, health, tourism, just name it, and we have been there. Sports also, we have supported sports in many ways, and we're still standing since the pandemic. From even before the pandemic, Hurricane Maria did set us back slightly, but we were very strong, very resilient when it came bounce back up. And then this year I've been in my business. I also have a love for hiking, which I've developed in Dominica. It has, since I've started it, it has gotten me to know the island much better. Places that one would not normally go, you end up going, and I would say that the beauty of Dominica is not watching from the outside. Yes, it's nice, admiring the mountains and the rivers, but it's when you get to the interior of the island, you really enjoy the beauty of Dominica. And coincidentally, the name of my club is the Revised Hiking Club. In June of this year, we will be celebrating our 20th anniversary as a club. So we've really stood tall and really stood strong. Now, my love for Cadence music, as I've told people, I don't have a family background of music. I just had a love for music. I developed a love for music at a very early age. I used to buy lots of records, the days of the disco music in America, Michael Jackson, Anita Ward, and these people, loads of albums of them inside there. And then I started listening to some radio program, it was on DBS, and I started hearing the Creole, our music. I did not understand it in the beginning, although I spoke some French, but I could not understand the Creole. And the Cadence music, I've said for many years, is that, and I also give thanks to Dennis Joseph. I have to give him his accolades, that he's starting the programs, the Creole programs on radio, allowed me the opportunity to really learn the language a little bit more, and I don't speak it fluently, but I can communicate. And so I started hearing that music, and little by little, I fell in love, and I just couldn't get enough, I remember that there was a song, the song by Gramax, Woyimi Deba. And when Ted Daly was on the radio, now, I had no tape recorder. So one day I called him. I said, Ted, bro, you have to play back that music for me because I want to record it on my little cassette recorder. So please don't talk, don't say nothing. Just let the music play. And so, I started going. And when I started traveling to Guadeloupe a lot, because I used to go there in the summer a lot for the holidays. And first place I used to go to was by Ari Deb's shop, music shop. First place. I mean, that music became like a food for me. And so I just started buying music, buying. Every time anything new, I buy it. And that's why I said my love is being a collector. And ever since, anywhere I go, if I know people have music, they have Cadence records, if I'm able to get it from them, buy it from them, or take it and record it, I will try my utmost best.
Yes, and thank you for that.
One more thing. In all that, since I've also given support personally through my business, when Gordon Henderson, when they were doing that, was it the 50th anniversary tour, Gordon?
I think so, yeah.
Of Exile, right? And you had a show in Dominica.
So many things.
Right. And then, we gave you all awards for, to recognize the different musicians. And then also last year when Wadik started Cadence month in July, we did all that there, so that's it for me. I will always do my best to preserve the music, to promote it, and keep it alive.
Yes, thank you for that. And we have to continue recognizing everyone who's joining us. Please go ahead and share the live. Let everyone know that we're here. So we see Dave Bertrand, Monique is here, Kofi Thomas, so nice to see you. Kofi has an urban garden in Brooklyn, and he was featured on the Ellen DeGeneres show. And we also had the opportunity to have him on an interview here. So, Kofi, very nice to see you. He says, Kofi, Wilma, and Juliet listening, and big ups to Uncle Fitzroy and all of Exile One. Kofi, very nice to see you. Ty Francis, Marie, Henry, Cobra McIntosh is here. Sandra Green, Jeffrey Baptist. Wonderful to see you, Mr. Jeffrey Baptist. Thank you for being here. Stanley Paul is with us, Dorel Edwards, and Abraham Francis, Devon, and we can go on and on. So thank you, everyone. Derek Rob Peters, always great to see you. Booyah Pioneer, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Greetings to panelist Brohim, who played a major part in helping our first band, Earth, lending us all the latest records since back in the 70s. Also, Gordon Cadas, Ambassador, and the Lady of Cadas, we are listening. So quite a crowd that we have here. So as we talked about before, we're going to kick off from where Gordon left us off in terms of Cadas being born. But before we do, Gordon, you wanted to add anything as an introductory comment?
Not necessarily.
Okay, excellent. So let's go ahead and kick off with where we left off in the conversation. The first part of the conversation we had with Gordon. And by the way, the one question I forgot to ask you, Gordon, when we did that first interview was how the name Exile One came about. And I recently heard you on an interview, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said it's because many of us are immigrants who've left our homes, and you also wanted the band to be recognized as the #1 band. Is that correct?
Not totally correct. I hate to contradict you, but
I didn't hear what I heard.
When we were looking for a name, Oliver Cruikshank, deceased the drummer, we came up with a lot of ridiculous names like the Sunday Islanders and all different kinds of stuff. And Oliver Cruikshank came up with the word exile. And we all decided exile was good. And I suggested that we add one for two reasons. The first reason was we thought that some other band would have had the name Exile, and that would create a little conflict. And we were right, because there's a rock band called Exile. So Exile One. And I don't think that we really had a reason. Later on, we gave an explanation saying that most Caribbean people, because we wanted a name to represent a Caribbean band. So we thought that most Caribbean people were involuntarily exiled from Africa. Some of them were voluntarily exiled from Europe and other places. So exile was appropriate for us, but not immigrant in the sense that we got exiled from our native land.
Yes, excellent. Thank you for that explanation. So, so now we have the birth of Exile One, the birth of the Cadence-Lypso music. So what happened after the success of the very first album that you all did? Remember, you shared with us the story of doing the same record in English and Creole. So what happened after the success of that first album? Let's just talk about the evolution, and everyone can feel free to chime in.
Okay, well, after the first album, we immediately did a second album because you may remember that we had a producer who thought that we should only sing in English because English would take us to mainstream and to larger markets. But when he realized that the Creole was dominating the scene, he immediately invited us to do an album. That's the album Akiaka, and the live album. Not live in public, although it's called Face au Public, but it was live in the recording studio. But that's how we recorded then. And after that, it was a series of recordings and recordings, and then the movement began because other bands, I should say, other record producers and other concert and dance promoters thought that this was a music genre of Dominica. So they went to Dominica to look for bands to produce records, and the guys didn't know anything about Cadence, so they played what bands in Dominica played, exactly what we did when we started. We played reggae and calypso and funk and soul, and the producer said, no, 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 that's not what we want. We want that music that Exile One is playing. And it was very easy for them because they did exactly what we did. They just creolized whatever. So the movement began, and the rest is history.
Yes, so Ophelia and Simon, what do you remember of that time period when Cadence first hit the waves in Dominica? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying it was interesting. I still think I was a little girl, but their music made me feel very proud. It's as if my nose grew, you know. They hosted my nose to make me feel, oh, Dominica, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Because I am not hearing me very well, although I've got
We can
those
hear you
things
quite
in.
fine.
Okay, good. All right, that's better. And I enjoyed the various themes. Like Akiyaka is one of my favorites, and all of the ways I used to listen, but mostly to the vocalist because I used to like to sing. And as a little child from age 4, I was singing in front of school groups and what have you. So I used to listen to Gordon, and sometimes there were other voices, but you know, his voice had a something. He knows how to command the presence with all of the music behind and around him, and I used to listen to that. And I used to sing too, you know, but it wasn't something that I saw myself doing, like going into all of those recordings and what have you. So that when McCarthy Marie, who is Gordon Henderson's best friend. I mustn't say one of, because I know he is the. The others have other adjectives going with them, but that is the friend he used to box with. Remember, he spoke to you about boxing? He used to box with Mark at SMA. Uh, and I don't know which one of them won, but the one used to win one time and won another time. So Mark decided, because, well, Mark and me is another story, but I guess you don't want to talk about this now. But he decided that I had to put that voice of mine on wax. And his friend Gordon was involved in that kind of activity. So he asked Gordon whether he could recommend somebody who would be interested in recording me. And he sent a demo, from what I understood, of me singing to Gordon. And Gordon decided, well, okay, if McMurray wants his wife to do a record, I will do it for him. And they had me traveling for my first time some September, where I saw snow for the first time. I was afraid to get off the plane because I didn't know if the snow could melt or hit me and what have you. But anyway, that in itself was an adventure. And I sought to bring the same level of status and style and class that I was hearing on those records. I wanted to do all of that with the music that I was singing. And as Gordon said, I was obedient. So when Gordon, suggested that I, Dominique, could go into a Cadence-Lypso mode, I left the Lancers. I, Dominique, dum, 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 dum. That's how it was. And I did what Gordon said. They played cadence and I sang cadence, and I almost want to say the rest is history. So, you know, and that is why I always feel that we should allow our younger people to see the artists who are performing so that they can get influenced and create a positive genre, a positive set of songs, a positive set of messages for Dominica and the rest of the places where they are heard.
Excellent. Simon, the early days when the music first hit the airwaves.
Yes, I mean, like I said, it was in the early days. It was like something foreign to me, because not understanding the language was somewhat of a barrier. But what really got me was the music. I love the music. I fell in love with the music, and what I appreciated of the music very much, in the early days, the variety, the styles, the different styles of music, of beats that would come out. Unlike what you see today, where it's like you hear one beat today, everybody has the same beat. Back then, it made me feel good knowing that in Dominica, I'm telling myself, whoa, but we have some very good musicians and bands coming up, because when the Cadence era started going, all of a sudden I would just hear of this band pop up, this band pop up, You had, besides the main bands, Exile One, Midnight Groovers, Bells Combo, Liquid Ice, with Ophelia, you had those, that was what you call, I called it the main core.
Grammar.
But then all of a sudden, you started hearing Naked Feet, Wax Power Vibrations, Black Roots, Black Affairs, Black Machines, Black Blood, Mammoth, and it's like I said, and I was happy because it's like a production plant just rolling cars off the machine, and records were just coming out. You would hear these guys traveling to Martinique, especially mostly to Martinique to record, and I was saying I started liking it, I fell in love, and I'm just getting music, and I was just saying, gosh, just don't stop at all, because I was so happy, something new entered my life. As I said, I was not a musical person before. I play no instruments, but I just fell in love with music. And I was really happy to see also the music in the early days. It got me to make friends, that I didn't have before. I was able to, to know the guys who played, in the bands. And so that was a very big part for me growing up young.
Yeah, and I know you have some memorabilia to show us, so we're looking forward to that. But before we go over to Gordon, because we want to talk more about how the band and the music evolved, that's going to be the major part of the conversation. It cannot be a Cadence program if we don't share some of our music, right? So I thought we could add a little music to the conversation. So I thought we could drop this one from, let's make sure, Exile One. Let's enjoy a little bit of our music with this concert that Exile One did. Oh no, we don't need Expedia. Don't you love YouTube for that? I just hit this ad.
Oh dear.
Jouez-nous, nous coincez nos pieds battelons. Pas question de revoir, pris encore. Nous en captivité, ça va qu'à faire pas. Débarquer dans un pays qui vit le soleil. On peut comme chez nous, mais c'est pas pareil. Yo pressez moi, yo exposez moi avec beaucoup de soin. Et comme un père chantise, yo van moi. Tout le monde. Aucun monde your body. Mama, what's alright? Everybody, who are you? Yo te muy primavera, que yo share. I'm keeping your body. Why, yeah.
Yeah, so it can be a Cadence-Lypso program if you don't enjoy the music, right? Gordon, I just have to ask, most of us will never have that experience of being on a stage performing. Just tell us what that is like to see an audience enjoying your music, singing the lyrics, having such, an experience. What is that like? How do you describe that to us?
Well, I wonder how Ophelia would respond to this. This is something that is extraordinary,
Yes.
and it never grows old. I must have told you in our previous conversation that going on stage for me was like therapy, because I grew up being a very shy boy. I heard my parents calling me Kodash. Say good afternoon to the neighbor, and I duck somewhere. Kodash, and so on. So going on stage was like therapy. You get a kind of, I dare say, spiritual connection with the people. And that is why I like a variety of music. I don't like only music where we're jumping and sweating and all these kinds of things. I like a variety of music because I see a spiritual connection between the artist on stage, particularly the singer, who is a kind of leader of the troupe, and the minds of the people. As we speak there, I just came back from a concert,
Nice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ophelia might have a different perception of what goes on stage, but for
Yeah,
me,
so Ophelia, we want to hear from you as well. That
Okay.
experience most of us will never experience in our lives.
Okay, let me tell you, I have a kind of nervousness that takes me before I go on stage, largely because if it's a guitar you have and the string bursts, you can put on a new string. If it's a keyboard that has a problem, you could maybe avoid certain notes. But that voice there, before you open your mouth, you don't know if it's going to hold up.
Right,
So
right.
so that gets me nervous. But because I'm a praying lady, I wanted to be a nun once, Gordon. Um, I usually put the prayer before, and it works. That is my favorite thing to do. I do not like studio work, but I like being on a stage singing to people and with people. There has to be a line or two where they can sing with me. Because to me, Gordon speaks spiritual, I speak a communion. I have to do the show with me. In fact, I tell them this is our show. Let's do it together. That's how I see it. If people are just looking at me with their hands folded and they're not reacting, yes, like you do in Ibrahim now. A good thing you don't do that when we're there on stage. Then I am not sure I would be able to do it. I also need to tell you that my first career was teaching,
Yes.
and I taught for 5 years at Convent High School, at grammar school, 1 month at SMA, 2 years at Community High School in Barbados, where my husband was a lecturer and I had to find something to do during the day. So I went and I taught there mostly French, some English, some history, some mathematics. And so singing is like an extension of that liking to teach, that sharing of my mind processes or a lesson that I think people should learn.
Right.
So I, Dominic, means this is my country, cry with me, because we should protect Dominica together. That is my message, and I'm passing it through as a song.
Right, right. Thank you so much for that. Simon, let's dive into those archives now. Tell us about the bands, and I think what is important, and Simon, you kind of alluded to that. It's so important that it's all Kadas music, but every band has its unique song. And I think that is so important. So kind of just walk us through, some of your knowledge, some of the archives you've preserved over the years, and we can all join in on the conversation.
Well, as I said, one of the things that really got me interested and following music is that Kadas music, every single band that came out, and Gordon knows that, every single band had their own style. So in other words, if I hear a Kadas song on the radio, I know it's not Exile One, I know it's not Gramax, I know it's Groovers, because Chubby has that unique voice. If I listen to Ophelia, I don't have to know. Someone doesn't have to tell me Ophelia singing. Hearing her voice alone tells me. So this is one of the things that really got me to really enjoy the music very, very much. You could identify with each band, their style of music. Each musician developed, and so as a result, you had a wide range of music, that you could listen to, and you could know that well. It's like me, for example. I mean, I love music. I love Kadas is my main love, if I have to put it this way. But at the end of the day, I enjoy reggae music. I enjoy calypso, soca, jazz music. I take a variety. I will go to any show, and that's why in the early days when I really fell in love with the band, I don't know if Ophelia or Gordon ever remember that, seeing me at the shows.
Oh yes.
I remember. I don't know if Gordon remembers the show that Exile One had at the stadium. Not the stadium presently.
Oh, at the Windsor Park.
At the Windsor Park, yes, when you're going the pavilion.
Yeah.
Right, that's towards the end of the river end.
Yeah. It was a charity show organized by Red Cross or some organization of the sort.
So, you go there, and I really enjoy going to the shows. I went to Ophelia's shows. I went to Exile when Groovers used to be done. Gramax also had a show at the grammar school grounds, and every time they play it back, it's kind of old, very old. But what really saddened me back then was that I could count the number of people coming to those shows.
Yep.
Because our people never supported the artists locally. They never went to the shows, and that really, and I'm just saying, but look, the same way we promote and we pick up the outside artists, what is wrong with our local artists? And we can do it, And so I developed that love for it. I developed the idea to not just buy music for buying sake, because I wanted to buy them, I want to collect them. And God rest her soul, my mom, when she died it's over some 30 years, she always told me one day, but bro, one day, why don't you sell back these records and make back music, or they must be valuable? I said, Mom, these albums I have there have no monetary value on them. Mm-hmm. Because I remember some 7 years ago, about a guy told me there's some DJ from South Africa who's in Dominica and is looking for old music and interested in, getting whatever. So I thought he wanted to probably record one or two or so. Then he threw it at me and asked me, well, would I be interested in selling some? I said, what? So just for finding out, well, let me see what kind of price you're willing to pay. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy had the audacity to tell me about $10.
What? Insult.
I took it in stride. I didn't want to piss him off. Oh, I said anything. I said, my bro, my collection, this is my life. Mm-hmm. They stay right there. They are leaving my home. Because in my young days, when we used to play music at our school fetes, I used to provide the music. I used to play music also at all the fetes. And when I trusted my friends, I used to lend them my records. When sometimes they don't come back, I've lost quite a few. And one of the albums I lost, I really, really regret. It is one of my favorite Exile records, Diama Creole.
Relevant.
And I remember I was passing in at Ari Debs, and I'm seeing this colorful 45 album. Lots of when I looked closer, I saw Exile One. Hell no, give it to me. And I lent it to a very, very good friend of mine. When he gave it back to me, I didn't bother check to see if the record was in it, you know.
Oh my.
Months after when I come to use it, the guy took it and he put a false 45 in it. You know, so my collection ever since, I told people, anybody who wants to borrow my records, lend them to do something, bring your turntable, bring whatever you want at my home and record them.
Yeah, and we want to kind of see what you have, Simon, if you get a chance. But let me come to Gordon while you're getting yourself ready. So Gordon, what was the next band that came after Exile One, and what was the reaction when you guys realized that this music was catching on? So kind of just walk us through the bands.
Well, the immediate follow-up was the Gramax. Jeff arrived. And he was taken straight to Debs. Debs listened to them. They moved into the Cadence thing. Although I interviewed Fra Soul, who is the guitarist of Gramax. So I have him on something that I call the Exile One story in 25 episodes. And that was done last year. But he believes that his voice is on there, that they were playing Haitian music. So, well, you know, even we in the Caribbean islands, we love reggae and so on, and we try to play reggae, but I hang around Jamaicans, and the Jamaicans will just immediately tell you, well, this is not the reggae. This is not the real reggae. You know, we might be playing reggae. So Gramax thought, according to Fra Soul, that they were playing Haitian music. But when you listen to Haitian music and you listen to Gramax, you will see that is really a fusion of Haitian and Calypso. And Ibrahim is quite right that every band had a distinct sound, a distinct way about it. But we must be careful that we don't do as if this is something that is particular about Cadence-Lypso. Huh? We all know Calypso. Sparrow doesn't sound like Shadow, and Shadow doesn't sound like this and that. We all know reggae. Bob Marley played in the same band with Peter Tosh and all this. They don't sound the same. So bands will, irrespective of what genre of music, will have a distinctive sound. There's another thing about the music is it depends on their musical background. If they listen to jazz or funk or whatever, you might identify certain traits. Like the Midnight Groovers, it is very clear that it is a rural sound. There's no doubt about it. It is very much from the traditional thing. There is a point that is very important about what Ibrahim said, and probably we may overlook it, but today's music, the way they produce it, most of the times, one guy or probably two will sit behind a computer and he will do something called a rhythm because they cannot say rhythm. So we call it a rhythm. So we don't say it.
It's true.
So this rhythm goes all around. So 300 singers can sing on the rhythm. So contemporary music, unfortunately, will lack certain types of creativity that existed, say, 20 years ago because of this rhythm period. And I know it cannot last. It will end at some point.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Gordon. Ophelia, I want to come over to you because it seems like it was quite a challenge being a woman in the business. So I want to explore how you navigated that. And then, of course, Ibrahim, I want to come back to you so you can touch. Oh, hold on. I think you're muted. What were you saying, Simon?
Whenever you're ready for me to show, I'm ready.
Yes, so let me go to Ophelia first. But before we do, we talk about how the music is so different based on the band. So I want to go ahead and once again share the music because I think it's so important that we continue to celebrate our music. And of course, this is Jeff Joe of blessed memory. So we want to make sure that we enjoy our music as well. Let's take a listen.
Mideba. Woolly, woolly, woolly. Ay, 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 ay. Amusement. Oh maman, amusement. Tout le monde. Comment tu es tout partout. Tout le monde. Comment tu es tout bonnement. D'après yo. C'est l'eau qui en dit temps, qu'a fait chaud, si l'ambiance, ça l'a commencé à exploser, comme qu'a pété, pas de silence, de commencer à mépriser. Mi débat, oui, débat. Mi débat, oui, on l'autre, toi, car. Mi débat, oui, débat. On va pas caca. Aïe, 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 aïe. Woolly.
Yeah, so I think we can already hear how the bands do in fact have their own unique sound. So Ophelia, let me come over to you and just tell us how you navigated being a woman in the industry. Let me try to unmute you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have to say that I was a fortunate lady. I went, I don't even know where to start. But anyway, McCarthy Marie is a big chunk of the reason why I was able to navigate. And I can say it a third time. I used to obey. I could go home and make a noise and quarrel and say, well, this should have been like that, and maybe you should have said that. But I had great respect for him, not only because he was my husband, but not was, but is, but also and more primarily because I recognize his leadership as the manager. He saw things I didn't see, and I trusted him. So I could listen to his critique. I could listen to even the choice of songs he wanted to recommend that I do on a show. And I had Gordon Henderson as the second, or was Gordon the first? Because there was a time when Mac and Gordon made some noise about a song Mac wanted me to sing, and Gordon didn't think it was up to the level. I don't know if Gordon remembers that, but he said, no way, you cannot have Ophelia singing that song. I will not tell you all what the song is, but I agree with Gordon. I agreed with Gordon that that was not a song that I should have sung. Um, but we found alternatives, and I recognize too that when you are the lead soloist, I'm hearing some noise. I don't know if it's coming from here,
No,
but
you're fine.
anyway, okay. When you are a performer, when you are a solo artist with a group, and you have an entourage that people do not see, that is the producers, the people who know about the public and what they would accept from an artist who looks as if she's serious and who has positive messages to perform. You know, you have to listen to all of them. And by the way, all of them are entitled to pay. So if you get $1 million, you're not going home with all of it. Everybody has to get their pay, or their whatever, their droit d'auteur or whatever it is. But I recognize, and I learned that early, and I was able to play my role and play to the best of my ability. And I had people who were supporting me down to what I should wear and not wear. And they recognized that I prefer to sell my voice and not my waist. They recognized that, well, I don't know if it was the Mother Mary situation they recognized, but they knew that there was a certain type of song that I would not sing. When I entered, all of the songs had double entendre, those two meanings to one set of words, and it had to be a sexting and a rub down there and what have you. And I wasn't singing those songs. I refused to sing those songs. At home, Mommy would say I cannot sing calypso because of what they were singing about women. So Daddy could sing his calypso, but I had to look for songs that I could sing. So they had to be positive songs. They had to be songs that built family. They had to be love songs. They had to be songs about Jesus that I will never let go. They had to be reggae sometimes, but things that I would be happy about when I went to sleep. So if you like, my standards had to be higher than what I was living around. And what is beautiful is that the people in Guadeloupe first, Martinique second, French Guiana, France, and the other places where I sang loved my level of music. They loved the stories that I wanted to share as a woman, as a lady with a family, and as somebody who recognized the value of team. And everything I knew was coming with me. The value of the family, the Creole and what it meant to me, the French that I could speak. Everything, it was the full package they were getting, and it wasn't one that was compromising on anything negative.
Very well said.
Let me,
Simon, coming up. Yes, go ahead and go ahead.
just before Simon, sorry, Simon, because there is something about Ophelia that she probably cannot say about herself. When Ophelia entered we can call it the business, you know, people, and I use this as a reference, like Jocelyn Berroa were there as singers.
Yes.
Kassav, that's from Kassav, right?
from Kassav.
Yes.
But they didn't dare sing in Creole
Mm-hmm.
because of the diglossia, because of the fact that women singing Creole were not kept in high esteem. They had one or two, and so on. So Ophelia, and this is very important because this goes beyond music. It's a societal contribution that should not be overlooked. She brought dignity to women singers. So people like the late Edith Lafell, I can remember going to a dance or someplace where Edith Lafell was a young singer singing in her brother's band, and she told me that she was looking up to Ophelia. Jocelyn, they looked up to Ophelia. Jocelyn first hit in Creole, CO, Mavianom, Du Consigo, and whatever. That came many years after Ophelia. So this is a significant point that should never be overlooked.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Gordon. Let's make sure Ibrahim is unmuted so he can give us a little bit of a tour of the archives.
Okay, well, I cannot display everything, but what I've showed there are original albums from before CDs were on stream. Okay, so let me know if you all can see clearly.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, I'm starting there with Exile One because obviously they're pioneers and they are the godfathers of Cadence-Lypso. So here we have Exile One. This is one of their early albums. Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds You. Then here we have Fitzroy. We have some more Exile there. That's the Faso Public album. And then here we have the Saltone Orchestra. Alberonado, also by Saltone, Hippomen River. Then here we have Our Lady of Song. Still looking young.
She's ageless.
Yeah. Then we move across, we have Gramax. And then here we have some more of Gramax. Then we have Billowman. Gramax, Billowman, Julie Morillo.
Julie, yeah.
And then when you go across this side,
Wow, that's a collection.
Wow.
then we have Bell's Combo, Naked Feet. Then we have RSB, Groovers, Midnight Groovers. That's one of my favorite albums, Groovers, Aisukwe Sako. Then we have also Liquid Ice, Bell's Combo on this side. Then these are some of the bands that I call them the one album band because most of these bands only made one album. That is Wack Combo. They were from, I think, from St. Joseph. Then we have this here, Revolution Kadas. That's Wafrikai. That's the band where our famous bass player came from, Freddie.
Yes.
Also, Bell's Combo, Black Roots. I lost a couple albums there were 4 bands that had the name Black with them. Black Roots, Black Machines, Black Affairs, Black Blood. We have Billowman again. Linford John from Billowman, he moved across. Then we have Smoke. Then we have Mahmoud from Salisbury. And these are the small 45s I was talking about. Diama Creole. Then we have Gramax about Mochebe Sukuya. And then we have this small 45. I don't know if Ophelia remembers it. Gloria.
And Magnificat.
And Magnificat on the other side.
Yes.
And then you remember in your interview with Tilly, right? You spoke about the group Earth.
Yes.
And how also someone mentioned on the chat, because when they were in my area, they used to come by me for all the music, you know? And this is one of the albums that they produced, Liquid Ice Earth. This is one of the group that was before guys like Derek Rapp, Peters, and them joined WCK.
WCK. Mhm.
So these are albums that I have cherished,
Mhm.
and there are more on the inside. There are others. Well, again, as I said, I'm not showing the CDs because I cherish the albums.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So,
And
but,
thank you for that, Simon. But it begs the question. I mean, are you the only one with that collection? Do we have a national archive of this music where this music is preserved for the next generation?
well, I know there are a few people who have collections. I know Wadix is one, because we grew up in the early days. But one of the sad things I would say is that most of the bands, and probably Gordon can attest to that, most of the bands that produced one album or probably two albums only, I mean, these guys today don't even have a copy for their own self, so that they could fall back and say, well, this is my production, this is my work. Because like some years ago, what's his name? Dr. Dublin from Maho, they had some event and they wanted to showcase Bell's Combo and they could not get any albums at all. So he came by me, I lent him the albums I have, but I told him straight, the jackets will go to display. The records stay here.
I agree. You learned your lesson.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's really sad that I know a lot of people also have been told, persons who had, through Maria, caused them to really lose their albums. I know some persons lost, from Hurricane David also. But I guess I'm one of the few guys that have those original albums.
Mhm.
And when Gordon spoke, he mentioned to me some time ago that, they're planning to come back with the vinyl. I'm happy because I prefer a vinyl album every day over a CD player.
Mhm.
And so my collection will remain there. It's not for sale. It is my love, my heart, my cherish.
Yeah, it's a national treasure. It's a
Mm-hmm.
national treasure. And I'm just wondering, this needs to be preserved on a national level. So I don't know how that would be possible. Gordon, you have any thoughts?
Well, it's relatively easy because while we don't have a library, but we know where to get the music. We can get some from Wadix, from Ibrahim Simon. We can get from Jokam. We can get the entire thing. We can record them, digitalize them, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But what comes to my mind when I listen to this, even from last year in the Cadence-Lypso month, is we've been talking a lot about building a music industry in Dominica. But we have the tangible evidence that we Dominicans constructed a music industry, mainly in Martinique and Guadeloupe, that lasted for quite some time.
Mhm.
We had the content.
Mhm.
We had the artists. What we didn't have the producers. And I am happy that I tried my best to fit myself among the wolves as a producer. But we successfully built a music industry in the neighboring islands,
Mhm.
which means we have what it takes to do it for ourselves.
So why hasn't it been done in Dominica, Gordon? We did it successfully in other islands. What is stopping us from doing it in Dominica?
Well, I think that to start any industry, be it banana or music, you need a lot of support from the top. And I know that it's almost misunderstood when you say these kinds of things because we are a polarized society and people say you're talking about the government and that sort of thing. But we need administrative from a national level. We need that kind of support. I don't think that our leaders, although I should weigh my words when I say that, because for the last 2 years or so, I've been hearing the Prime Minister saying that he wants to make Dominica become, his words, the hub in the Caribbean with respect to setting up a music industry. So the man at the top seems to be thinking about it. Are we thinking about it correctly? I am not sure. In Dominica, we have a strange definition of culture, and sometimes we want to give the responsibility of selling music. Remember, I said that we have a track record of building an industry in Martinique and Guadeloupe, but there was no Ministry of Culture. It wasn't done through Ministry of Culture. In Dominica, I think that the Ministry for Trade, because since we do not have a market that can sustain, one of the reasons that Martinique and Guadeloupe could have done it is because they have the market. They have about 1 million consumers right there, and we probably have 35. So we cannot compete. So our Ministry for Trade should be more concerned in the music industry than the Ministry for Culture. The Ministry for Culture is very good at the traditional aspect of the culture. They've been doing it very well. So I think that is one of the problems. We need that thing. And I'm not saying that to say that government is supposed to throw in money into the industry, you know. I am saying that to say the enabling environment must be created, because the industry we built in Martinique and Guadeloupe, no government threw in any money. So we probably need to review and really understand what went on and what can we do to centralize that thing, bring it to Dominica. The World Creole Music Festival is an excellent start.
Absolutely. Ophelia, any thoughts on that? Because I think it's so important. You know, every time we have these discussions, you know, two things always seem to come up. The fact that we have to go beyond Dominica's borders to find success for our musicians before we can embrace them in Dominica, which I think is so unfortunate. And then that question about the music industry and how we can formalize a music industry in Dominica. Any thoughts, Ophelia?
Yes. My first thought is, well, let me respond to Steinman first. He said that when a band creates one album, you cannot find it afterwards. Well, let me tell you, when a band creates or an individual creates 18 albums, she doesn't have all of them. You know why? Because to me, that is a special responsibility to collect those things and put them in a place where they can be beautifully viewed, where they can be listened to, where they can be recognized, and all of that there. So that I myself don't pay enough attention to my own albums. So I can see that happening to somebody who has only one album. Gordon was saying the other day that he couldn't find some of his productions. He had to go to Signman. You know, and to me, people have to understand, if they have any regard for the artists and if they recognize that the artists are sharing what they have inside here and inside of their heart with the rest of the public. They have to be, if you don't, even if you don't love them, respect their work and see it as your legacy as well. Because I can speak about my music, but it doesn't only belong to me. I Dominic is every Dominican's song. You know, so we on that level have to make a certain noise. And if we make that noise, maybe Honorable Skerrit and other people will understand why they should put some money, because we need the money, into building that museum or whatever nice other name we want to call it, so that people can see that that is something people should be able to go in and look at. Okay, there is new examples. Their first album is this. Let me see what the first song says and be able to hear it.
And that is so important, Ophelia, without tripping you, because how many islands in the Caribbean can boast having created two genres of music?
Of music.
And I get stuck right there because I'm thinking, we have created two genres,
Yes.
Kadas and Buyo, and yet we have no place that honors and showcases
Yes.
the work.
Yes. So we have to do something. And
Yeah.
I'm saying we, well, me as a Dominican, Ophelia Odivache Marie, that one, I know we have to do something. But it isn't necessarily Gordon, the one who created Exile One, or Ophelia, the first lady of Dominican song, or whatever. It is all of us. We have to want it, because and it doesn't only represent a piece of history or a legacy which you might consider intangible. It has tangible import for Dominica. It could be a place where visitors could go, where school children could go and understand the essence of what is Dominica. And we really have to do something. I hope I don't have to run for elections to do it.
I'll vote for you.
Somebody must really get that vision. Look higher up, man. Look
Yes.
beyond. Look in a positive and capture all of the good vibes that are around for us to be able to concretize it and make it happen. But our people have to start. The
Right.
person who cannot do their work, cannot sweep their yard on a Saturday morning without music. Those people have to talk too.
Thank you for that, Ophelia. And I just have one more question as I see our time is speeding along. So this is a question for the entire panel. Gordon, in our last conversation, you talked about the other genres of music which were influenced. So when we left off, you were talking about how soca, Lord Shorty I, how soca came from Cadence-Lypso. So I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about it in terms of the notion that we get stuck with, Cadence hasn't gone anywhere since the 1970s. And you very eloquently said it shouldn't. It should have evolved into other genres of music. So I want to talk about that, the influence of Cadence and how the music continues to evolve. But before we do so, let me just once again say hello and thank you for everyone who's joining us via Facebook Live as well as via YouTube Live as we talk about Dominica's Cadence-Lypso, the history, the evolution, and so much more. So we have Cheryl Bona over on YouTube, and she says, I love Ophelia. Pretty much she's saying you're very classy, Ophelia. So thank you for that. Cheryl Leslie is here. Thank you for joining us. Derek Peters, bro, don't forget that our band Earth practice next to you. The Volans, of which Dexter Valmore was the drummer. We made the first Cadence album in 1979 by Debs in Guadeloupe. Members of this group was Dexter Valmore, Ashton Lugay, Leroy, Spiky, Gist, Frankie, Tom. Wow, you have quite a memory. Wow. Derek Thomas and myself, Derek Peters. We got the deal because Liquid Ice was broken up and Dexter, brother Tony Valmore, now deceased, was the only one who got us. Wow, quite a memory. Let's see who else we have. Let's take some comments before we continue with our final question. Kula Brohim Harris, awesome part 1 interview, listening to part 2 from Georgia. Great session. Thank you for being here. Manuel Pierre, listening from St. Thomas. I love you, Ophelia and Mr. Gordon. What happened? You don't love Simon too? Simon, you too.
Thanks to all of you.
Evelina says, hi, Simone, and your panel. Love me some Ophelia Marie, the queen. Let's see who else we have. Elizabeth Thomas out there in Massachusetts. always our forever leading lady of song. You blazed the trail for so
Wow.
many. Thank you for remaining true to your values. You
Thank
are
you.
a legend. So lots of comments. Carol Olivache Bruni, wow. I'm impressed at the collection. Awesome. Leslie Lee, Glenda, my biggest loss when I left DA, Mr. Laps. He should have saved them. I guess he's talking about some lost albums. See
Yes,
who else we
hélas.
have. Howard Augustine. As a matter of fact, I played with Black Roots and haven't got a single collection for myself. Leslie Charles out there in St. Lucia, thank you for being here. Marcel Jamal Fontaine produced a cassette album. Does anyone have a copy of it? Simon, you have that
Oh
one?
dear.
I will look at I will look at my collection.
Yes, then we'll look to see if he has it. Let's see who else we have. Derek Ra again. What I did with some of the most of the music I created or recorded, I gave it to friends and family. For example, Leslie, so I could always recall the albums. So actually I stored them with these people, and then Liz out there in Massachusetts says, "What an educational session with two greatest, the phenomenal lady of song, and our very own Gordon Henderson. I, Dominic, we are so rich with talent. I too want to understand the essence." So thank you for that, everyone. So did we get the final question that I asked, the evolution, the influence, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, there are two aspects that we need to look into it. Is in terms of evolution, it's from the musical standpoint. Since we are very insular in the way that we appreciate our music, Jamaica is into reggae, this one is into soca, we're into cadence bouillon. Whenever there are influences, people don't readily take it. Just recently, for example, we have a great producer from Dominica called Dada Lawrence.
Yes.
He produced something which by all means, even the uneducated ears can see that this is bouillon. But the fact that it is commercialized in Trinidad, even him would have to take a back seat and say, well, it's a kind of soca,
Jesus.
And so on. So we have that problem, this insularity. And when you're from the small islands, I can remember as a boy, cricket. Irvin Shillingford would go and score 100 runs, and they still wouldn't pick him for the next test match. And it's true, you know,
Yes.
from a small island and so on.
Yes.
So we only have a short history as a small island to produce. So when Shorty spends a whole night listening to Exile One, and he comes up with a song in Creole, Shorty and whatever, and he says Cadence-Lypso has absolutely no influence in it, then we have to take it as a thing. The other aspect, which is not musical, is in terms of the concept. Before Cadence-Lypso, we used to think of genres as being pure. This is a calypso, this is a begin, this is what. But the idea of fusion, if we look at it, because it's recent history, began with Cadence-Lypso, where we openly came up and said, you know, this is what influenced us. We took some of this, that ingredient, and that ingredient. And since we have seen other genres emerging, I used to like the word synthesis at the time, but now I prefer to say fusion or marriage. And the very latest is ragaton. Ragaton is what is a Jamaican thing. Some Spanish, Hispanic people found they liked it, and they put their salsa with the reggae, and ragaton is a big thing. right now I have been working with people from Angola who they have a huge genre that is taking over all over the place called Kizomba. And recently they seem to realize that Kizomba doesn't necessarily come directly from Zouk. And they have me even doing webinars and that kind of thing because they realize finally with research that Zouk itself is musical fusion. So I think that is the evolution thing. The last thing I can say quickly about the evolution thing is we have to be very careful that when music evolves, we must be very careful. That's why I always say that Cadence-Lypso is music of the 70s. If we take the compa, they didn't change the name. Reggae changed the name. The Trinidadians changed the name from Cadence-Lypso to soca.
Soca, yeah.
Genres they changed the name. The Haitians never changed the name from compa, but they changed the style significantly that we know that Taco Combo doesn't play the same thing that Karimi, and I say Karimi because I'm an old-fashioned guy, I'm not following them, but Karimi is already old school.
Something else.
Yes, yes. Can you imagine?
So in Dominica, we have to be very careful that we cannot cling to what is equivalent to the Elvis Presley rock.
Right.
Rock and roll as a society, we need to, when we say evolve, it has to change. Every generation must bring in their input. And as I heard Ra saying, since he's listening, Ra had a nice phrase that I can't remember quote, but they were saying you need to maintain the foundation. That doesn't mean that you cling to the foundation, you know, for years to come. But the foundation, and you must be able to identify the foundation, what really defines the music.
Yeah.
So I can see you doing programs and programs on evolution so that people can really understand. We must know how we decide to evolve.
Yes, yes. And you know, Tilly put it the best for us, you know, because we were always complaining that booyah, the booyah we grew up on, it's too different now. And he said, no, the booyah of today is for the young people of today. The booyah we grew up on was the booyah of the young people when we were young. So you have to just appreciate the booyah you enjoyed and let the young people now enjoy the booyah that they're growing up on. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's all perspective.
But Simon,
That's what it is.
add a little thing to what Gordon was saying, right? Yes, still is saying the booyah of today is for young people. But then if you are in the business to produce music, to make money for a living, are you going to just produce music to target one set of persons?
Exactly.
Then you have to ask yourself a question. The persons you are targeting, the young people that you're targeting, can they support you financially? Now, the music that Gordon in the days produced and leading up to the old booyah music, the old school, the WCK, the first serenade, this is music that can be played 30, 40, 50 years down the line still.
Exactly.
The lyrics were so simple,
Timeless.
and so educational that you could play it for teenagers, for young children, for old folks, all over the place. So I have no problem with the booyah of today, but my problem is, where do you want to go with it tomorrow?
Right.
Are you just playing it for now? Are you just producing music for now? And so, like Gordon said, they did have a market and have a musical industry back then. There was. For us to get that going again today, is not only leaders on top have to come to help. At the end of the day, is the persons producing the music for the outside market. What are you producing to catch my attention? And so I believe that the lyrical content and the style of music, yes, guys are producing something. There's some songs that are nice. But on a whole, that's my personal view, the lyrical content is not attractive for me. And
Absolutely.
so if you want to go into music for a pastime paradise as a hobby, okay, fine, you can do it, and young people will just take it from tip to tip and don't buy it. How are you going to earn a living? And yet, at the end of the day, we cry that we do not get support. But at the end of the day, you have to start within yourself and give me a music, produce a music for the market, because what Gordon and them did back then, I mean, we don't have to go far.
Timeless. I mean, I can listen to that over and over again, and it just never gets old.
You know, the market of Guadeloupe and Martinique is still there for us. You know, but we're not taking advantage. Why? Because we're not producing the goods.
Absolutely. And Ophelia, I want to come to you, but I cannot have you on the program and not enjoy one of your songs. So let me just go ahead and do maybe like 2 minutes of an Ophelia song, because I can't have you on the program and not enjoy one of your songs. So let's enjoy this one from your 40th years in the music celebration. Let's hope an ad doesn't come on, okay? No, not an ad. Okay. Yes, I just had to share a little bit from the Lady of Sound. So, Ophelia, let me come over you. Your final thoughts, anything you want to comment on that particular celebration of your 40th year? Did you ever stop teaching, by the way?
Well, I still sing through songs. I still teach through songs. Yes, and all my students still call me Miss. I'm always surprised when a policeman stops and say, "Okay, go ahead, Miss." I'm saying, "What? When did I teach you?" You know, so that continues. And when people ask me questions, it's strange that I don't know. I seem to have the face of a teacher. I meet people who have seen me for the first time and they ask me questions. And so I go into that bag and I come out with the things I have to teach at the time. And then the other activities in which I'm involved continue to help me to teach. Like I am the president of the Dominica Council on Aging, and I'm learning there and I'm teaching. And there are also the other things, like I used to be president of the Red Cross. Not many people know that. And then when I was in tourism, I used to teach, and I continue doing that. Some of it comes out in a song. I have a great grandbaby now, and when she wants to cry and I want to distract her, I teach her a little song in a lullaby kind of thing. and I clap, and she listens. So that's why I have to be careful what I sing. I cannot just sing anything, because to me, every line that I sing is a lesson.
And you've also taught us with your life story, such an inspiration to the rest of us women.
Yes, where did you get that though? Because I'm not sure I divulged half of that. Ever.
We
Maybe
know
one
you
day.
well enough to know you're an inspiration.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Yes,
Yeah,
people
so
say
let's
that
just
of
go
me too.
around. Let's go around the room for final thoughts. Gordon?
Well, thanks a lot. I hope you'll continue giving us a hand.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Signman. Oh, you're muted. Let's try to unmute you.
Oh, oh yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Many thanks for giving me the opportunity to share my collection. Many thanks, most of all, many thanks for allowing me the opportunity to be in the presence of these two big people in Cadence music. I adore them and I love them because they have given me a lot of work from the productions that I can have these collections, you know, and I will keep on supporting them in whatever way possible. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
We love
absolutely.
you too, huh?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for all what you've done to preserve our music, to preserve our heritage, because in essence, what you're doing is preserving who we are as Dominicans. So I want to thank you so much. And I also want to say thank you to your son as well, Gordon Dion Henderson, because I know he continues to be a producer. And one of the music that he produces is Creole. And we also have folks like White Fairy and Delma Daniel who are still singing the genre. So I think we still have hope. There's still hope. You know, I know we have to evolve, but I love my Kadas music. So I still think there's hope that we can, you know, these are relatively young people. So maybe we can invest in them and take the music to the world in a different form, a little bit of a more jazzy version. White Fairy has this song that Wadix plays every time he comes on.
I love it.
I love that song.
I love it. Prince
Great
Wadix.
music, great piece of song.
Prince Wadix. But you shouldn't feel odd, because there are people who love Elvis Presley rock and roll, and they will not give it up for any of the better selling newer rock versions.
Right.
So if you like 1970 Cadence, it's all good.
Absolutely. And you know what I like about that White Fairy song, the way he said, "We thanking you." I say, wow, that is so genuinely Dominican. He doesn't say we thank you, he said we thanking you.
Yep. I love the song. I love the song.
Yes. I think I enjoy the song more than I enjoy some of the conversations. But anyway, I didn't say that. But again, thank you for being here.
I didn't hear that.
Thank you for being here, Lady of Song, Ophelia, Ibrahim, Simon, Brohim, Mr. Gordon Henderson, all the way out there in Paris, France. I know it's super late for you. And of course, thank you to our audience for joining us for this Push Past 10 presentation of the history and evolution of Cadence-Lypso. And who knows, maybe we'll have a third part and discuss something else. Income streams, I'm open to anything that will help our musicians and performance. So Facebook Live, YouTube Live, thank you for joining us. Again, I am Simone Matthew. Don't forget to like Push Past 10, share the live, click the notification button to know when we will be on the next time. And of course, Gordon, you have a book, Zookland.
Yes.
Is that book available for sale?
I think we ran out, but just check on our website, www.exile1, the digit, exile1.com.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for being here, and we're gonna go out with this one from Midnight Groovers, because we're sharing all our music today, and of course we have to make sure we include the groovers as well. So let's take it away with this number from the Midnight Groovers, one of my favorites.
New York isn't just a colony, it's a movement. New York's role is to elevate the world's consciousness. You have history.
I hate when you can't skip the ads.
ou vege sa ou ka fe mwen. Ou fama ki asi mwen, ou fe yo pini mwen. Mais moi c'était conscience ou d'être capillé. Moi c'était tout corps d'être capillé. Au déblé pour moi amitié. Ça monte de ma saute. Au déblé ouais moi puissant. Ça monte de ma saute. Au déblé ouais moi la clé. Ça monte de ma saute. E sa mă da fel aie. Sa mă după sau de e. Doamne mulator, Doamne mulator, Doamne mulator. Dacă tot, organiza Uyo coco, esa un café mue. Uyo coco, un feyo tini mue. Uyo coco, un feyo pase mue. Uyo coco, uyo coco, esa un café mue. Uyo coco, un feyo tini mue. Uyo coco.
You know, that is why we say this is the history of our music, because that is actually a true life story. That song is based on a true life story. So again, thank you everyone. Unmute your mics as we say farewell, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
And to everybody in Paris and wherever Ophelia is and Simon, enjoy it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So maybe we'll invite Chubby the next time. And continue the conversation. Gordon, I'll take some of that wine. Thanks. Have a
Bye.
good night. Take care.